Let's bring in our fair and balanced political panel now. Republican strategist Mark Lampkin and Dan Kinnanen, former senior advisor on the Obama campaign. Gentlemen, nice to see you. As we look at what's going on right now, it seems as though you have these two competing narratives, Mark. You've got the president overseas being presidential, and at the same time you have him stuck in what has become, anytime you have a special prosecutor, special counsel, a scandal, if you will, here in Washington.
That's certainly true. But I think what we ought to do now is all the media frenzy, the congressional activity, ought to take a step back. We now have a special investigator, special prosecutor, Robert Mueller, who's...
Okay, that's great. When's the media ever going to take a step back? They're not. When is congressmen again ever not want to see their mugs on television? They're not. Come on, I mean...
No, that's true, but if you've got all this tension that he can't get his agenda through, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The reason why no one pays attention is because the dominant narrative is on both the congressional leadership and the media is about the scandal. You know, there are things that are very much more important. Tax reform, health care. And people realize, if you've seen the news in recent days about the inevitable collapse of Obamacare, the premiums that are being announced, 30, 40, sometimes 50%.
It's interesting you just said that, because I got on Twitter from a fella who's goes by the name Deplorable Kevin, which I'm guessing, based on my history on Twitter, that this is a gentleman who's a supporter of President Trump. But he wrote this: ask your guest how come they're not working full-time on tax plan, taking breaks every other week. Please work for taxpayer for once.
I agree with Deplorable Kevin that all the distractions, both by Democrats and some Republicans, about the obsession about who leaked, who did what with regard to the Russians. We now have a special prosecutor. Let that business unfold. Congress should focus itself and allow the president to focus on himself and doing the business of the people.
Yeah, I think, look, this is the inevitable result of having someone in office who is not prepared for this job, who has a long history of these conflicts and problems and scandals that have been persisting both before and during the time in office. And the idea that suddenly you become president, you can just focus on the work, when in fact this is someone who's been dealing with this for years.
Are the American people, including Democrats who are American people, are they best served by Democrats in Congress just putting a full stop on everything and playing politics with the president's scandals, problems, whatever you want to call them?
Well, Mark and I will disagree on whether they're best served by Obamacare or not. I think Obamacare is a fantastic law that's serving millions of Americans quite well, and we've lied for years about the impact of that.
So long as it sticks around, but okay. Well, as long as we keep funding it, but fine.
As long as you don't have to pay the 50% premium increases.
But here's the point. The point is that this president is embroiled in a scandal that not only affects him politically, it affects our country in terms of national security. That is a day every single day. That's a problem for us. He's leaking intelligence to the Russians about the intelligence we got from Israel, frankly. It's putting our troops in harm's way every day. This has to be out.
You connected a lot of dots that may not be there, just for the record.
There's a lot of reporting on this.
Well, I understand there's a lot of reporting. I've spent 4 years in Israel, and then one of the #1 sources that I have over there says, hey, the Israelis aren't that worried about it. So there's reporting on both sides of this. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to say, if you step back, this obsession with getting Trump started before he was inaugurated. This is nothing. There's no there until there's something there, and that's the problem. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have been obstinately opposed to everything. We've got people who last administration were getting 96 to nothing votes to getting into office, who now who are being passed along by party line. Chuck Schumer's they've been calling in the narrative of a special prosecutor since the day one. It's all what they haven't done is gotten over the fact that Hillary lost and that Trump is president, and every day there's an obsessive notion, how do we bring this president down?
You got 15 seconds.
If you took nothing else but Donald Trump's own statements and tweets, there is a there. We know their connections to Russia. We know that
so that's very quickly, that's worth putting the brakes on everything.
Well, if we're demolishing reforms that help American people, certainly. But in this case, I think what's important to know is getting to the truth about these connections, understanding the relationship, and finding out what's happening.
And clearly the Democrats have made the political calculation that it's sort of worth stopping everything rather than getting to work, as our tweet talked about. Mark, Dan, appreciate your guys' time. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
obviously, I think there'll be more about this to talk about in the coming weeks.
Probably.